You can enter in. Bow down and worship me. Worship me. Worship me.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Behind the Veil. Now we start off in the month of July where our theme is going to be worship and service. So today we started on a topic which we entitled New Covenant Worship, Understanding True Worship. So join us as we briefly sum up today's message.
The flesh wanna stay in the outer court. The priest can only.
So today we said that worship is a word that we hear in the church all the time, and God is asking for true worshipers. So we need to understand what worship is before we can actually know how true we can worship God. So we said we started off with a message by differentiating between what prayer, praise, thanksgiving, and worship were. So we said thanksgiving is thanking God for what He has done for us. Praise is praising God for who He is. And we said that prayer is asking God for our petition, but worship is different. We said that worship is different from the other three because the other three are utterances. But when we worship, we don't have to sing or do anything. We worship with our body. And we will just go through that. And we started off in Matthew chapter 4 verse 9. We know the Jesus being tempted in the wilderness, and the last temptation, and the devil said that, he said, all this I will give you, he said, if you will bow down and worship me. So we said the Greek root word for worship means to bow down or kiss. And then we said that the same Greek word that we can find worship is the same one that we can find worthy. So worship is finding something that is worthy of your time. So when the enemy told Jesus to bow down and worship him, he knew what it meant, because he knew that bowing down was an outward show of a deeper sense of worship. So we said that worship is actually submission unto God. Then when we look at in verse 10, Jesus said to him, away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. So we realized that worship is very important, and because of that, even the enemy wanted worship, but Jesus did not give him worship, and something amazing happened. So he refuses his worship, and the next thing that Jesus, the devil, that's what we read in verse 11, says that then the devil left him, and angels came and attended him. We said sometimes we may be having a problem. It's not a deliverance problem; it's a worship problem. If we are worshiping God, if we are truly worshiping God, the devil will not be in our life. And just to support that learning, we look at James chapter 4 verse 7, where it says, submit yourselves then unto God, resist the devil and he shall flee from you. So the person that is in submission to God, which is worship, gets rid of the devil. It is not a deliverance problem. Maybe it's a worship problem.
In the inner court, but only the Spirit can come behind the veil.
Then we continued with a very interesting conversation between a Samaritan woman and Jesus at the well. Now, it's quite fascinating that Jesus chose to talk to Nicodemus, who was a priest, about being born again. But yet there's an adulterous woman, and Jesus is talking to this lady about worship. So, beloved, sometimes the enemy rids us of worship because we feel we're not worthy enough, you know. So let's listen to this conversation between Jesus and the Samaritan woman. We'll forward it into in John chapter 4 verse 21, and he says, woman, Jesus replied, believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain or in Jerusalem. Now, Jesus made it clear that before that time, people either worshipped on the mountains, which was the Samaritans, or in Jerusalem, which was the Jews. But he said there's a time coming, this is changing. In verse in verse 23, he says, "Yet a time is coming in the future." And beloved, I believe that time was the day of Pentecost. And it says, "And it has now come." And it has now come in the form of Jesus Christ. Because at that time, he was the only true worshipper. And what did he mean by that? And he says that when the time the true worshippers will worship the Father in the Spirit and in truth. For they are the kind of worshippers the Father is seeking. Have you ever read anywhere in the Bible where God is seeking something? So we said that worship is not something for us. We don't come out of church and say, "Oh, that was powerful worship. Oh, I felt lifted up high." How did God feel? It's not about you. It's about God. So God seeks worship. And worship is for him. And in verse 24 it says, "God is spirits, and his worshippers must worship him in spirit and truth." So we said that if someone is a Frenchman and I want to praise him or adore him, the best language to use is French. But if I go and speak my own language, speak bucket loads of words, and walk away thinking I've done the best thing I could, but I did not communicate with him in the best form possible, then I've not done anything. God is spirit, and he is seeking those that worship him in spirit.
Only the blood-washed in righteousness can come behind the veil. Only the purged in spirit.
Now, to better know the meaning of worship, we decided to apply a principle. There's a principle in the Bible or Bible interpretation where the principle of first mentions. If you want to know the true meaning of something, look in the Bible where it was first used, or a word which was first used, and see the context. So we said, let us examine the first time the word worship was used in the Bible, and we can find that in Genesis chapter 22 verse 5 reading onwards. So in Genesis chapter 22 verse 5, we're talking about Abraham and Isaac, and he was to take Isaac and to go and sacrifice him, and he called it worship. How? Let's find out. So in verse 5 it says, he said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back." He said he was going there to go and worship with the boy and come back. So what did he mean by worship? He was offering a body. So we said that true worship is offering a body. That is what Abraham meant. And in verse 6 he said, "Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac. And he called and himself carried the fire and the knife, and the two of them went together." Verse 7, Isaac naively just asked this question of his father, and he says, "Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, 'Father, yes, my son.' Abraham replied, 'The fire and the wood are here.' Isaac said, 'But where is the lamb for the burnt offering?' Beloved, I put it to you, the burnt offering in this instance was Isaac. You see, the thing about burnt offering is, when you read in Leviticus chapter 1 verse 6, it's meant to be cut into pieces, in portions where it can be burnt properly. When we are cooking, even in the oven, we want to cut it into bits where it can properly be cooked. So you see, our body parts are supposed to be a burnt offering. That is the true idea of worship. That is the true meaning of worship. You will say, how? And then we will draw meaning from the New Testament in Romans.
Purged in spirit can come behind the veil. I'm talking to you. Come on.
So we've just said that the first time the word worship was used was when Abraham was sacrificing or offering Isaac. Now remember, he did not kill Isaac, but he intended to. So he put Isaac on the altar and God stopped him. So in effect, Isaac became a living sacrifice. He was meant to be sacrificed, but the boy did not die. That is what we are supposed to do. What do I mean by that? In Romans chapter 12 verse 1, it says that, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice." Oh my God, what a revelation. We are supposed to be offered like Isaac, a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. So you see what we mean. The word worship, the true meaning of the word worship is to offer a body as a living sacrifice. It's not about singing and about lights and atmosphere and smoke and fog. It's about the body that we offer to God. A living sacrifice like Isaac. Abraham wanted a son so badly. And they might have gone to a point where God realized that Isaac took first place in his heart. So God said, can you offer that? Our bodies is what God wants. It's good to give our money, it's good to give our time, but God wants our bodies to be offered to Him. And then we've concluded in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 1. You see, we are spiritual beings and God gave us a body, but He is testing us to see that are we going to hold on to this body or are we going to give it back? You see, Isaac was a body, figuratively, given to Abraham, and God wanted him to give it back. So sometimes we hold on to our earthly bodies. What does Paul say about this? In 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 1, he says, and the subheading is awaiting the new body. Beloved, you need to not love this body or you cannot serve God well. So he says in verse 1, for we know that if the earthly tent we live in, he describes his body as an earthly tent. We know what a tent is. A tent is temporal. A tent is something that we put up for a while and then we break it up. So if we really want to serve God, we have to know that this body is just a tent. It's something in passing. And he says that, and I'll say it again, for we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven. You see, we are spirit beings living in a body and we possessing a soul. We shouldn't love our bodies so well. So true worship is giving back God the body He gave to us. You see, God created us in His likeness, and God is spirit, and we are spirit. But He gave us a body so we can interact with this world. But we might fall too much in love with this world, and the senses and desires of our bodies will take over our spirituality. You see, true worship is giving a body, offering your body, offering your eyes, offering your arms. What do I mean by offering your eyes? Making a covenant with your eye that my eye belongs to God. I will not look at a brother or sister lustfully. As David made a covenant with his eyes, that I will not look at a young lady in a lustful way. We are meant to bring our bodies as a living sacrifice. That is true worship. That is what we learned today. This is just the first part of many to come. This month we're focusing on worship and service. The first 3 weekends are going to be on worship and the last 2 on service. So beloved, if you want to know more and understand more of this, listen to the full version of our audio message on SoundCloud and our various WhatsApp distribution. Until next time, God bless you. This has been another edition of Behind the Veil. Let us worship in truth and in spirit.
The Spirit and the crowd is saying, come.